Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 8 Part 4 based on novel. So let's start. Hundreds of Yuan Gate disciples formed an orderly formation in the air. The majestic ripple that exuded from their bodies gathered together, causing a muffled thunder to resound in the sky. It was a sight that would cause eyebrows to be raised. 3 figures stood at the very front of all the Yuan Gate disciples. The auras from these 3 may not be as impressive when compared to the combined presence of the hundreds of people behind them, but they were as imposing as 3 large mountains that stood in front of the Yuan Gate disciples. No one dared to underestimate them. Lin Dong's eyes had also narrowed slightly due to the appearance of these 3 figures. He had once met the Little Lightning King, Lei Qian, amongst them. Therefore, his gaze directly looked towards the latter's left. There he saw a handsome white-clothed man that was holding a foldable fan. The fan was flapped slightly, giving him a graceful and scholarly appearance. However, the waves of powerful fluctuation seeping out from him allowed one to understand that it would be extremely foolish to treat him as a helpless scholar. "He is the Little Spirit King, Lingzhen," Ying Xiaoxiao softly said. Her face was somewhat solemn as she stared at the white-clothed man. Lin Dong nodded slightly. His eyes had also become quite grave. He was able to sense that this Little Spirit King, Lingzhen, seemed to be even more dangerous than Lei Qian. Yuan Gate was indeed worthy of being the strongest sect within the Eastern Xian region. It was possible to see this just from the gap between the disciples from the various sects. However, the strongest of the Yuan Gate 3 Little Kings are not these 2. Instead, it is Little Yuan King Yuan Kang. Ying Xiaoxiao's eyes were a little complicated. Her voice seemed slightly hoarse when she uttered this name. It was clear that the name gave her immense pressure. Lin Dong nodded quietly. Soon after, his eyes looked towards the spot between Lei Qian and Lingzhen. A blue-clothed man with an ordinary appearance was standing there with a smile. His appearance was not as fearsome as what Lin Dong had imagined. However, countless gazes were gathered on the blue-clothed man while he smilingly stood in front of the Yuan Gate disciples. That ability to draw attention was not any weaker than Ling Qingzhu's. Lin Dong glanced at the other super sects. The monsters from the various sects would have a somewhat unnatural expression when they looked at Yuan Kang. Caution flashed across their eyes. Their demeanor clearly indicated that they were extremely fearful of him. From this scene, even Lin Dong had no choice but to admit that the Yuan Kang's presence was indeed powerful. The leader of the 3 Little Kings lived up to his reputation. The blue-clothed Yuan Kang turned his head under the focus of those uncountable gazes in the sky. After which, he threw his gaze towards the direction where the 9 Heaven Supreme Purity Palace was located. Of course, to be specific, it was towards Ling Qingzhu, who was standing on a green lotus. Ha ha, this time around, it is indeed Ling Qingzhu who is leading the 9 Heaven Supreme Purity Palace. If we end up meeting in Unique Devil region, I hope that Ling Qingzhu will hold back a little. Yuan Kang looked at Ling Qingzhu. That face, which was not handsome but still nevertheless attractive, involuntarily broke out into a smile. After which, he gently laughed. It must be said that this Yuan Kang was a man with great charm. Although he was not really handsome, his demeanor when he spoke caused one to appear to be bathed in the winds of spring. Without realizing it, the caution within one's heart would gradually weaken. Martial brother Yuan Kang is joking. Qingzhu does not have that ability. Ling Qingzhu lowered her long eyelashes in response to Yuan Kang's words and softly replied. After uttering those words, Ling Qingzhu's eyes secretly glanced towards the distance without anyone noticing. It was the direction where Lin Dong currently was. Qingzhu is really humble. If you go all out, even I might not be able to easily obtain victory. Yuan Kang laughed. After which, he withdrew his eyes a little. He turned his head and looked towards the direction where the disciples from the Dao sect were located. The moment that Yuan Kang's eyes looked over, Lin Dong was able to sense that the bodies of all the Dao sect disciples behind him momentarily tense up. Even the Yuan power within Ying Xiaoxiao and Wang Yang's bodies involuntarily circulated in a more hurried manner. Ying Xiaoxiao, Wang Yang, aha, all of you can be considered to be acquaintances. Yuan Kang smilingly looked at Ying Xiaoxiao and the rest as he spoke. The expressions of the Wang Yang duo sunk slightly. Although Yuan Chang's voice was gentle, they could sense the surging dark and cold bloodthirstiness beneath the surface. Yuan Kang once again smiled after seeing the expressions of the Ying Xiaoxiao duo. His eyes eventually paused on Lin Dong, as those long eyes of his narrowed a little. I have heard that the champion of this 100 Empire War has rejected the invitation of my Yuan Gate and entered Dao Sect instead. Now that I look at it, your Dao Sect had indeed managed to gain quite a lot. Yuan Kang smiled. His voice paused for a moment before continuing, this may be good as well, rather be the head of a chicken than the tail of a snake. Yuan Kang's laughter immediately caused the eyes of quite a number of Dao Sect disciples to be furious. These words were saying that Lin Dong was only able to be a leader due to the weakness of their Dao Sect. If Lin Dong had went to their Yuan Gate instead, Lin Dong would only be ranked last. This fellow might appear amiable, but his words were like needles hidden within cotton, piercing one until even one's bones would hurt. The original clamor in the sky had also become silent at this moment. Those members of the various super sects were watching this scene. The grudge between Yuan Gate and Dao Sect was extremely deep. Everyone present was aware of it. However, they did not expect that hidden sparks and turmoil would appear the moment they met. However, from the looks of it, it seemed that Dao Sect was unable to beat Yuan Gate. From the area where the Nine Heavens Supreme Purity Palace was located, Ling Qingzhu's brows knitted together slightly. She glanced at Su Ruo beside her. The latter's small face was covered with worry. Clearly, she was also aware of the gap between the disciples from Dao Sect and Yuan Gate. Chicken head or snake tail? It is too early to come to a conclusion now. Lin Dong's expression did not contain the slightest fear in front of the many gathered gazes from all over the place. He laughed. Back then, didn't my Dao Sect's senior Ju Tong also beat your Yuan Gate's 3 little kings till one was killed, one was injured and one had fled? Some uproar was stirred in the sky when these words were spoken. Quite a number of people had shock-filled faces. Clearly, they did not expect that Lin Dong actually dared to clash against Yuan Kang. Arrogant fool that does not know your limits. Don't tell me that you dare to compare yourself to Ju Tong. Lei Qian laughed coldly and mocked. Even Ju Tong had difficulty escaping from being killed by my Yuan Gate. The little spirit king, Lingzhen, who was holding a foldable fan, said with a smile. A sect master of Yuan Gate can lower himself to attack a disciple of Dao Sect. This has indeed caused others to be dumbfounded. Lin Dong laughed. Lingzhen and Lei Qian frowned slightly when they heard these words. The smiles on their faces turned a little unnatural. The Ju Tong from back then did indeed only possess the status of a disciple. However, he had ended up forcing the sect master of Yuan Gate to intervene. Only then was he killed. This matter had ended up attracting some hidden ridicule, causing the reputation of Yuan Gate to be damaged. It could be considered a sore point in the hearts of their disciples. During the time that Lei Qian's expression was gloomy and could not help but wish to say something, Yuan Kang in front of him waved his hand. His long narrow eyes contained a small smile as he stared at Lin Dong. However, the smile was filled with a dark and intense chillness. Looks like we have not put your Dao Sect disciples sufficiently in their place over these years. Yuan Kang curled his mouth and smiled. Immediately, he shook his head. His eyes were like that of a snake as they swept over all the members of Dao Sect. He softly said, in that case, all of you should pray for yourselves during this great sect competition. His voice did not reveal any overtly vicious words. However, the ill intent could be clearly heard by everyone. Some things should not be said till the end. The smile on Lin Dong's face withdrew bit by bit. Both of his eyes vaguely contained a dark glow surging within them. Under his sleeves, his fists had also tightened. He was aware that he would have to really go all out during this great sect competition no matter what. You are bold. I like that. When the time comes, I will say these words to you once again. Hopefully, it will not be the last words that you hear in your life. Yuan Kang laughed faintly. After which, he slowly withdrew his eyes. His fingers were crossed and placed in front of him. Lei Qian and Ling Zhen, who were familiar with his character, revealed a cold smile on their lips when they saw this. They were aware that such a moment was when the murderous desire within Yuan Kang's heart had reached its peak. Clearly, Lin Dong had already provoked a murderous intent from Yuan Kang. Dao sect was truly unlucky. Lin Dong also withdrew his gaze when Yuan Kang did so. He turned his head to glance at Ying Xiaoxiao and the rest. Their faces did not show even the slightest dissatisfaction because of his earlier provocations towards Yuan Kang. Instead, quite a number of them had icy cold stern expressions. Can that Yuan Kang be considered the strongest person amongst the youngest generation of the Eastern Xian region? Lin Dong inquired softly. Ying Xiaoxiao thought for a moment after hearing this. She immediately shook her head and said, "There is one person who is not weaker than him." "Who?" "The first on the sect's wanted list, Ghost Mask Chen Gui," Ying Xiaoxiao said. "Chen Gui?" Lin Dong frowned. It was clear that this was the first time he had heard this name. He is not a disciple of any sect. Moreover, he cannot even be considered someone from the Eastern Xian region. This person appears and disappears like a ghost. An ordinary person would have difficulty finding his traces. It is rumored that he had once exchanged blows with Yuan Kang, but Yuan Kang was unable to emerge victorious. From the side, Wang Yang opened his mouth and explained. "So it's like this?" Lin Dong muttered to himself. It seemed that this Eastern Xian region was really filled with many hidden experts. He wondered whether Chen Gui would appear during this great sect competition. "The unique devil region is about to be opened?" Ying Xiaoxiao suddenly said while Lin Dong was deep in thought. Lin Dong raised his head when he heard this. He saw some ripples start to appear on the spatial barrier in the distance. This unique devil region was about to open. While the unique devil region was in a state where it was about to open, two rays of light flashed past the sky 500 kilometers away at lightning speed. "Junior sister disciple, there is no need to be too anxious. We will make it in time for the great sect competition." The two rays of light were positioned one behind the other. The light figure behind suddenly paused for a moment, before speaking somewhat helplessly. That light figure was revealed the moment it paused. There was half a ghost mask on his face, giving him a somewhat eerie ghost-like appearance. "Who is as slow as you? There is no need to follow me if you do not wish to go. I can go by myself." However, that light figure at the front did not slow down because of this. Soon after, a clear young lady's voice was emitted. Immediately, her speed suddenly quickened as she rushed towards the horizon. That ghost mask person involuntarily laughed bitterly and shook his head when he saw this. He could only follow behind quickly. The conversation of these two echoed in a faint manner. "Is junior sister disciple looking for someone? Who is it? Is that person very important?" However, you will know just who that person is after he is found. But I will likely end up being scolded once I find him. You should be a little smarter when the time comes. Otherwise, I will tell teacher that you failed to protect me adequately when we return. Even teacher is reluctant to scold you. All right. Ripples suddenly appeared on the distorted space above the vast dark plains. A rather frightening fluctuation was faintly emitted from the distorted space. The sea of people on the plains had once again become restless due to this change. Numerous incomparably fiery hot gazes stared at the distorted space. Those familiar with this scene knew that this was a sign that unique devil region was about to open. As one of the renowned danger zones in Eastern Xian region and due to the great ancient array that locked it, unique devil region was basically sealed almost all the time. It was impossible for an ordinary person to barge into it. However, with the flow of time, holes had appeared in the large array. This caused the seal to be greatly weakened every few months. This moment was the best opportunity for countless number of treasure seekers to swarm in. Just like this very moment. A frightening ripple spread across the sky at a shocking speed. The spatial barrier that stood between the sky and earth in the distance also became increasingly distorted. One could vaguely see through the distorted space and see the unusually dark land behind it. A dark and cold ripple spread from it. It is about to open her. Lin Dong's eyes contained some wonder as he stared at the distorted space. He was actually quite curious about the great earth-shattering war that had occurred in this place. Perhaps he would be able to learn more about that ancient great war in this place. Just what unknown beings were those peak experts of the world fighting? Our auras must be linked when we enter unique devil region later. Otherwise, we will be separated. Ying Xiaoxiao looked at the increasingly distorted space in the distance. After which, she turned around and spoke with a solemn expression. Understood. The many disciples from Dao sect replied in a low voice upon hearing this. Immediately, their expressions became a lot more tense. It was likely that they had all heard about the dangers within unique devil region. If one was to be sent alone to certain dangerous areas within that place, it was very likely that one would end up dying. Are we going to head back the same way when we leave? Lin Dong suddenly asked. There is a formation deep within unique devil region. At that time, the 8 super sect disciples will gather there from all over the place. Ying Xiaoxiao became quiet when she spoke to this point. She continued, moreover, once we arrive, it will also likely be the time when we will exchange blows with Yuan Gate. During the last great sect competition, senior sister disciple Wang was killed by Yuan Gate because she was protecting the Dao sect disciples as they withdrew from the formation. By the side, Wang Yang's hands were clenched until they emitted a creaking sound. A kind of crazy violence surged within them. Lin Dong nodded slightly. He extended his hand and gently patted Wang Yang's shoulder. After which, he asked, is it not against the rules to do anything within unique devil region? Even if one kills the other party's disciple. The great sect competition is not a peaceful sparring match. This is an unfeeling training ground. Therefore, no one will hold anyone else responsible no matter what tactics one uses within this place. Of course, hatred will naturally accumulate, Ying Xiaoxiao laughed softly. So it's like this, huh? Lin Dong muttered to himself as his eyes narrowed slightly. His appearance did not allow anyone to be aware of just what he was thinking within his heart. Buzz buzz. While Lin Dong was conversing with Ying Xiaoxiao, the space in the distance had become extremely distorted. After which, the space suddenly exploded and a vortex was formed. Swoosh! The moment this vortex was formed, the sound of rushing wind immediately tore through the skies. Countless figures whizzed out like locusts from all directions. Finally, they turned into a torrent that was thrown into the distorted vortex. Following this huge activity, those super sect disciples also moved at this moment. Compared to those surrounding chaotic human figures, they were undoubtedly more orderly. Majestic Yuan power whistled and directly wrapped around all the disciples within their respective sects. Finally, they transformed into a large ray of light that charged into the vortex. We should also get moving. Ying Xiaoxiao took a step forward when she saw this. A soft cry resounded clearly beside the ear of every Dao sect disciple. Understood. Wave after wave of vigorous Yuan power immediately spread from the bodies of the many disciples after a united response. Soon after, the Yuan power slowly merged, transforming into a light cluster that encompassed everyone. Let's go. Ying Xiaoxiao waved her hand as she immediately rushed out. Lin Dong, Wang Yang, and a large group of Dao sect disciples immediately followed closely behind her. All the Dao sect disciples were wrapped under a rich light, making it seem as though they were one body. Finally, they entered the rotating vortex under the attention of many watching gazes before completely disappearing. An endless sea of people rushed into unique devil region after the Dao sect disciples. Rushing wind sounds continued to resound across the plains. Qi Lei, Zhenzhen, and 2 others in the sky above unique devil city gradually withdrew their gazes as the Dao sect disciples entered unique devil region. After which, they exchanged looks with each other. They could see some graveness and an unknown emotion in each other's eyes. I wonder how they will perform if they face Yuan Gate again this time around. The strength of those 3 little kings of Yuan Gate are indeed quite strong amongst the younger generation, Qi Lei spoke in a low voice. There is no need to belittle ourselves. The disciples of Yuan Gate are strong, but those little fellows from our Dao sect are not useless either. Moreover, this time around, our Dao sect also has a little monster following them. Chen Zhen laughed faintly. That fellow can indeed be considered a monster. Before we left, Sect Master told us that the greatest variable of this great sect competition would be Lin Dong. Sect Master has only said such words twice in 100 years. Once was due to Senior Ju Tong, while the second is due to Lin Dong. Qi Lei smiled when he heard this. Immediately, he sighed emotionally. This time around, let's watch and see what methods this little monster will use when facing the three little kings of Yuan Gate. Ha ha, I am looking forward to it. Chen Zhen and the other three looked at each other. The solemnness in their eyes had relaxed a little. However, at this moment, it was likely that even they could not imagine that not long from now, their anticipation would end up erupting in a bloody manner that would shake the entire eastern Xian region. Blackness spread over the ground and finally extended to the edge of one's sight. It was as though the sky had become extremely dark, causing one to feel rather oppressed. This land had once experienced a most desperate earth-shattering battle. This place was also a dark, desolated plain. From time to time, some extremely ear-piercing roars could be heard from far away. Those roars did not contain any life force, instead, all they contained was an extremely pure desire to kill. Swoosh! This desolate plain was quiet for a long time. Suddenly, countless cracks appeared in the sky. After which, many light figures rushed out from those cracks. A moment later, they broke the desolate silence of this place. A large bright light suddenly shot out from these cracks that permeated the sky. Finally, it landed on the ground. The bright light scattered, revealing hundreds of figures. They were the Dao sect disciples led by Ying Xiaoxiao and Lin Dong. This is unique Devil Region He. Many Dao sect disciples could not help but observe their surroundings after they landed. Clearly, they were very curious about this dangerous place which they had heard much about. Most people will be randomly transferred by the vortex to the various edges of unique Devil Region after entering it. Therefore, if our luck isn't bad, it is likely that we will not meet with Yuan Gate too soon. Ying Xiaoxiao's eyes swept around before speaking. I? Lin Dong also nodded slightly when he heard this. They still had things to do within this unique Devil Region. It was indeed not good if they met with Yuan Gate too soon. After all, they were in no hurry to resolve their grudge. We should get moving first, be careful. Lin Dong's eyes swept on the surrounding land. Just as his words were uttered, his pupils suddenly shrunk. His foot suddenly stomped on the ground and a frightening energy swept apart. It directly shook the ground, causing a crack to form. Under that crack, over a dozen ferocious pitch-black monsters covered in sharp black thorns revealed their large and bloody eyes. Swoosh swoosh! The surrounding land suddenly collapsed when Lin Dong discovered these monsters that were hidden underground. Immediately, countless extremely sharp large black thorns penetrated out from the ground and pierced towards the Dao sect disciples. Quite a number of Dao sect disciples were caught off guard by these ferocious attacks that had come moments after they had landed. However, it was fortunate that there were some outstanding disciples with swift reactions. Immediately, vigorous Yuan power swept out and rushed to block the black thorns that violently pierced towards them. Ying Huan was similarly caught off guard as she dealt with these formidable attacks from the underground. However, the number of attacks aimed towards her were clearly great in number, causing her expression to change slightly after forcing back a dozen monsters. She watched as razor-sharp claws reached for her from underneath the crumbling ground, while a surprised cry involuntarily emerged from her mouth. Clang! The instant she cried out, a figure had already appeared in front of her in a ghost-like manner. Immediately, his leg rapidly thickened, turning into a green dragon leg that angrily kicked downwards. Bang bang bang! The land crumbled due to this kick, causing the Dao sect disciples' faces to become ashen as they saw a myriad of black monsters with large scarlet eyes surging out like an erupting tide from the collapsed ground. Devil ants, how disastrous! Ying Xiaoxiao's group gazed at the black sea of monsters as their expressions gradually became grim. It was likely that they did not expect that they would end up encountering these troublesome creatures the moment they arrived at unique Devil Region. The land shook and continued to collapse. Those man-sized black monsters surged out like floodwaters. Sharp claws and teeth flickered with a cold glint that caused one's heart to feel fear. A vague but extremely powerful energy fluctuation was emitted. These monsters clearly possessed an extremely great power. However, those from Dao sect were clearly not the only ones who were attacked by these monsters called devil ants. Soon after the commotion here, some exclamations were also heard from a distance away. After which, some miserable screams sounded out. It was likely that someone had already been killed. In an instant, this area of the black desolated plains had become extremely chaotic. Bang bang! Lindong held the black tree in his hand. Fierce and violent force unfurled as it danced. It directly slammed into the charging devil ants till the bones all over their bodies were broken. Although his attack was ferocious, the devil ants were also unafraid of death. They continued to charge over from all directions. Their numbers caused Lindong to frown deeply. After their initial panic, the Dao sect disciple began to display the strength of a super sect. They cooperated with each other and blocked the devil ants' attacks. However, some people still ended up being injured. Fortunately, their lives were not threatened. These devil ants are great in numbers. Moreover, their flesh is extremely thick and hard. If we drag it out with them here, it is likely that we will be eaten by them once our yuan power is exhausted. Ying Xiaoxiao knitted her umber black brows when she spoke of this point. She muttered, however, why have they appeared in the outer parts of unique devil region? Normally, devil ants will only appear in the more central middle areas. It is very difficult to break free. Lindong watched the densely packed black sea of ants and felt a headache. It was unexpected that they would end up encountering such a troublesome situation the moment they entered unique devil region. The dangers of unique devil region did indeed live up to its reputation. If he was alone, it would naturally not be difficult to escape. However, he clearly needed to protect the other Dao sect disciples. Ying Xiaoxiao and Wang Yang also frowned. Their eyes flickered as they continued to think of a plan to escape. These damn things. Why are all of them heading my way? While they were frowning in deep thought, Ying Huanhuan shouted as her small face turned a little green. The eyes of Lindong's group drifted over when they heard this. Sure enough, they discovered that those devil ants seemed to be continuously charging towards Ying Huanhuan's location. The sharp claws and teeth that could easily tear the Nirvana golden armor of a 6-yuan Nirvana stage expert were aimed at all vital points from all directions. Lindong was slightly startled. Soon after, his eyes faintly flickered. These devil ants did not possess great intelligence. However, their target was unusually clear. Ying Huanhuan was not the strongest within this group of theirs. Yet, why were these fellows so fixated on killing her? Could it be that through their instincts, they had sensed that Ying Huanhuan was the most dangerous in this group? Lindong knitted his brows. Although Ying Huanhuan was a reincarnator, she had clearly yet to awaken. He did not believe that these low-intelligence beings could discover this extremely hidden identity of hers. However, if it was not because of her status as a reincarnator, then what was the reason? Lindong's eyes flickered rapidly. In the next moment, his pupils suddenly shrunk. Other than her reincarnator identity, Ying Huanhuan seemed to possess something that they did not. It was her sonic attack capabilities. Huanhuan, use your sonic wave attack to hypnotize them. Lindong's body moved and appeared beside Ying Huanhuan. The black tree was swung violently, smashing a couple of devil ants into slime. At the same time, he spoke in a low voice. My sonic wave hypnosis can be completely ignored as long as one's mental energy is a little stronger. Ying Huanhuan was startled momentarily as she replied. These things do not possess any mental energy. They might be terrible beasts to others, but they do not possess any ability to defend against you. Lindong said. When he smashed these devil ants into pieces earlier, he was able to sense they did not possess even the slightest bit of mental energy within their bodies. Ying Huanhuan hesitated for a moment before finally nodding her head. Immediately, she waved her hand gently. An emerald-like ancient jade green zither appeared with a flash. Her fingers gently plucked the strings and gentle zither music swiftly spread while accompanied by a strange fluctuation. Bam 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 bam. Just as the zither music appeared, Lindong and the rest immediately saw that those originally fiercely attacking devil ants had slowed down. In the end, they directly fainted with a crashing sound. Everyone was momentarily stunned as they watched the ant tide that had originally caused them to fall into a dangerous situation become so helpless against the zither sound. It was indeed true that everything in the world had something that counteracted and neutralized each other. Who could imagine that this ant tide, which Lindong and the rest did not dare to get entangled with and could only retreat in response, would actually be completely defeated by Ying Huanhuan's zither music? Go! Lindong, Ying Xiaoxiao and the rest sighed in relief. The latter let out a soft cry and led the group to quickly leave this dangerous place. Big sis, there seems to be something underground. However, Ying Huanhuan suddenly spoke hesitatingly just as they were planning to use this opportunity to leave this place. Oh! Lindong, Ying Xiaoxiao and Wang Yang were momentarily startled. Their footsteps also slowed. After which, they threw their uncertain eyes towards Ying Huanhuan. Ying Huanhuan knitted her brows slightly. Her hand suddenly swept past the zither strings as a sonic wave directly erupted from it. After which, everyone watched as the black ant tide that had surged out from underground acted like a large hand being opened, revealing the black soil below. The ant tide separated, revealing a large brown rock deep within the ground. At this moment, there were a couple of figures seated on the rock. Those are. Lindong's group was startled as they gazed at the figures seated underground. After a closer inspection, they discovered that they appeared to be some mummified corpses. Lindong, look at the dantian of those corpses. Ying Xiaoxiao softly said. Lindong's eyes looked over. Immediately, his pupils shrunk. He could see a cluster of white light at the dantian of those corpses. Within these white lights, there seemed to be a pill-like object stealthily rotating. A kind of majestic life chi that caused one's expression to be slightly altered was emitted from it. This is the mysterious life bone bead. Damn, these mummified corpses were likely experts at the advanced mysterious life stage or even the perfect mysterious life stage. Emotions also rushed out on Wang Yang's face at this moment. His low voice contained rich shock. Mysterious life bone beads. It would only be gradually formed when the life force within the body of an advanced mysterious life stage or perfect mysterious life stage practitioner did not scatter after dying. It contained a rather vigorous life chi within it and possessed a great allure for those who are at the peak of the 9-yuan nirvana stage. If one was lucky enough, one might even be able to use it to touch the door of the mysterious life stage. This thing would definitely be extremely rare in the outside world. Unexpectedly, they had come across it after having only just entered unique devil region. Even Lindong's eyes had a fiery hot expression surging within it when faced with such a treasure. No wonder an ant sea of such a scale had appeared in this place. They were here for the mysterious life bone beads. Ying Xiaoxiao came to a sudden understanding. Shall we take them? Wang Yang looked towards Lindong and Ying Xiaoxiao. The latter two exchanged glances, before lightly gritting their teeth and nodding. Since they had found such treasures, there was no reason to easily give them up. Ying Huanhuan watched the three excited individuals, and hesitated for a moment. As those large eyes of hers observed the corpses, unease flashed across them for some unknown reason. Swoosh! However, just when the Lindong trio had made up their mind and were preparing to take action, an extremely deafening sword whistling sound suddenly appeared in the distance. After which, everyone from Dao sect was startled. They saw a bright light surging in the distance. The light directly transformed into an enormous light sword, while an ear-piercing sword whistle spread outwards. Immediately, it tore through the sea of ants with shocking speed and appeared in the air above Lindong's group. Members of the sword sect? Lindong's eyes immediately narrowed when he saw the light sword that had suddenly appeared. Ha ha, I was wondering why a sea of ants of such scale had appeared in the outer parts of unique devil region. Turns out that it is not without reason. The light sword in the air gradually dimmed, revealing a large group of people. A grey-clothed man smilingly looked at Lindong's group from the front of the group. After which, He rotated his eyes and stared at the corpses on the brown rock with fiery hot eyes. The many Dao sect disciples also revealed a cautious expression in their eyes due to the arrival of the sword sect disciples. A mighty yuan power fluctuation faintly emerged. The grey-clothed man looked at Lin Dong's group. His eyes flickered before laughing. I am Xuanling of Sword Sect. Ha ha, friends from Dao Sect, shall we divide these mysterious life bone beads equally? This video will end here.